Hey guys, so today I'm going to be talking about something that's a bit different from what I normally talk about. So everyone here is probably aware of the situation that's been going on in Afghanistan with the US and other NATO nations leaving and the Taliban quickly taking control over the Afghan government, which collapsed in under a month, I believe. Um, this whole situation has just been both very chaotic and yet surprisingly unchaotic, if that makes any sort of sense. Essentially, what happened was the U.S. and other NATO countries they had been in Afghanistan for an outrageously long time. It's the war in Afghanistan was the longest war the U.S. ever fought at 20 years exactly, actually. Um, so, yeah, it was definitely time for the countries to leave. I do not argue with that. Um, the way they did it, however, was not optimal to say the least. Now, all the other countries, okay, the U.S. formally anticipated that the Afghan government would last a significantly longer time than it did, it not lasting pretty much any time at all. And that led to the fact that the Taliban was able to take over the country pretty much unopposed at all, with only a few resistance movements in the mountainous regions, the more mountainous regions of Afghanistan being any sort of threat at all. Now, a lot of people have been blaming one political party or the other for this situation, but I have to say, there's if the blame were to fall on anyone, it would be to the people who initially planned the invasion of Afghanistan because the fact that they failed to set some sort of exit goal past, taking down Al Qaeda, which they did for the most part, that's what caused it to drag on and just seem to not really get anywhere. Now, definitely the people who have been affected by this by far the worst have been like minorities and women within Afghanistan because now they have gone from when the US and other countries were there where they could get an education, get healthcare, and things were like for the most part stable. To now, like the Taliban has said that they will allow them rights, but so far they also said that they would allow reporters to go and not be interfered with, and that promise has not been kept up. So it's doubtful that they will allow the education of women and minorities as well. Um, a lot of a lot of the issues within there, from what I've seen, have been mostly used as talking points within the U.S. in politics, where it's just people blaming each other and like like I said, while some parties hold blame, like a lot of this situation was out of the control of people, especially with people blaming President Biden, where this pullout was already planned before he even came into office. And while he didn't do the best job, he definitely did a lot better than it was possible for him to do poorly. If that sentence really that basically, he didn't do the best, but he also didn't do the worst. I'm not good at talking. um, like, while I do believe that they started evacuating people a bit late, they what I was glad to see was the fact that they were evacuating as much people as they could until like within minutes of the deadline. And that's the deadline part is another thing that I'm not sure how I feel about, where on one hand, like if they had refused the Taliban with the deadline and continued evacuating people, they would have been able to get a lot more people out. But then on the other hand, that would make the Taliban much more likely to retaliate against people who had collaborated with the US, which there are still a very large amount of people in Afghanistan that did that. Um, Overall, this is just a super messy situation, and it's one that I really, really wish never happened, but the universe really doesn't care what you wish any of the time. So, in other words, really, aside from the Taliban, the only people who got a net gain out of this war is Lockheed Martin and Boeing. So yay for them, I guess. Um, yeah, that's it. That video went nowhere. Sort of like the Afghanistan war. I guess that's fitting.